I just encourage our listeners just to be thinking in terms of legacies. You don't have to necessarily do the magnitude of a Steve Jobs or a Muhammad Yunus, but you can create legacies within your communities also.
In today's episode, we delve into the profound concept of legacy building in entrepreneurship. Beyond achieving financial milestones, building a legacy represents an entrepreneur's ability to make a lasting mark on their industry, contribute positively to communities, and pioneer innovative practices that set new standards.
The Let's Get Entrepreneurial podcast is your ultimate launchpad for igniting ideas and skyrocketing your entrepreneurial dreams. Your two hosts will be Professor Gary Palin and serial entrepreneur Ryan Budden.
Hello, Ryan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing brilliantly. What about you, Professor Palin?
Fighting the good fight.
I love to hear that. I have no doubt that that's the truth.
Ryan, what I wanted to talk about today was legacy building in entrepreneurship. And that's something that most people don't think of, but it really is an interesting concept if you really want to have a deep impact in entrepreneurship. Legacy building is beyond financial milestones. You're building a company that represents the entrepreneur's ability to make a lasting mark in their industry, contribute positively to communities, basically set practices for new standards in industries.
It's a great concept because oftentimes people get into the game of entrepreneurship for this perceived monetary gain. What we've talked about a lot on this podcast, and I think it really holds true, the ones that are really making it are the ones that are focused on something bigger than just a financial reward. They're doing it because they're hyper passionate, or they're doing it to leave this legacy like you talked about.
The one that jumps to my mind is Steve Jobs. He really not just created a legacy, but he changed how the world functions. There are others, like Estee Lauder did some really interesting things. She revolutionized the beauty industry, and she also set corporate philanthropic standards.
And that's a great legacy to leave, especially in that industry, setting up something that's going to change how people operate in that field for the rest of the future.
One that I think of that to me is one of the most pertinent, I know you like the concept, how he left a legacy, is Muhammad Yunus with the Grameen Bank, and basically the father of microlending.
He absolutely changed the way monetary policy is given to people in need in most areas of the world.
And he changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, and it's going to continue well beyond his time on this earth.
Without a doubt.
I just encourage our listeners just to be thinking in terms of legacies. You don't have to necessarily do the magnitude of a Steve Jobs or a Muhammad Yunus, but you can create legacies within your communities also.
You can, and even before the legacy is set, because a legacy implies that it's been happening for a long time, you can still be a steward of what you want to see in that industry. Before you get to the point of legacy, you have to start by stewarding these principles that you would like to become legacy.
And it's not even just necessarily the company's legacy. You can leave legacies through people. And I've always maintained that my legacy is my students.
For you, there's no doubt about the truth of that. I'm an example of somebody that might not be doing what I'm doing today without you. And I've met many of your students in similar positions that I am.
Basically, when you're looking at the strategies for building a legacy, you want to start with your vision and values. You want a clear long-term vision of what legacy you're trying to build. And then you have to share that across all of the people you're interacting with to gain buy-in. And there has to be strong core values within that vision and values.
You framed it right. You've got to know where you're going. What is that legacy you want to leave so you can start acting in accordance to leave that legacy?
Yeah, it goes to the old expression, without a plan, any path will get you there. From the vision and values, you want to have mentorship and community engagement because it's impossible to do it just by yourself. So you have to mentor others to be involved with the legacy, and you want to pass on knowledge and values to them, and then they will pass it on. It becomes a ripple effect. And you can create a new wave of innovators in a particular area to carry out the legacy's principles.
That's important. And that can be people inside of your specific company or people outside of your specific company. You could almost argue that outside of your company might leave that legacy faster. It might change the industry a little faster because then they can implement these changes inside their own organizations.
If you can get community engagement, that amplifies the legacy and makes it more powerful, more expedient, and is a greater magnitude.
Do you think specifically stating these goals is the way to do it, or should it be a more subtle process where you're trying to lead by example type thing?
Having more of a clear vision of where we're going, you might not get into the minutia of the details, but what are we trying to impact? For example, Muhammad Yunus, he saw that people in very difficult economic conditions couldn't get simple loans from banks, even $100, to just create a small business to provide for their family. His vision was to create a vehicle to provide those type of microloans, to use his term. How he got there, I don't think he explained the details to people, but he created that bigger vision so they all knew where they were going. And it was a damn worthwhile cause.
Without a doubt. That's a good reference point, actually.
With legacy building, like with anything else that's worth doing, there are challenges that you face. We're taking the challenge of building a business, which is an issue unto itself, then throwing on top of that the icing on the cake, if you will, of creating a lasting legacy. You will be facing the difficulties of short-term versus long-term goals, because if you don't accomplish the short-term goals to move the venture forward, then your long-term legacy goals are irrelevant.
You've got to be around for a while to make a lasting impact.
Prioritization of your daily operations and demands versus laying the groundwork of your envisioned future are always in conflict.
So where's the good opportunity, right? If you're focused on the short term because you have to get to the long term, where do you see these opportunities stand out to leave this legacy?
It's magnitudes of issue, but I go back to the concept of pain points. Think in terms of not pain points from developing or identifying opportunities with business. Think of a larger pain point that the world is facing, or if you want to look at your community is facing. What are major problems that are being addressed? Can you leave this legacy, this vehicle, to move that forward?
That's a good way of framing it.
So you think of Estee Lauder also, her legacy with the philanthropic models that she put in place. Another person who did that, who created more of a process for philanthropy, was John D. Rockefeller. He obviously built Standard Oil to a magnitude. He was just a powerhouse. And some people question the ethics of how he got there, which is a whole nother story. But his later part of his career, he always maintained that giving the money away was much harder than making the money. He was a very detailed person, so he created a very significant process for philanthropy. University of Chicago was a result of John D. Rockefeller. Many medical innovations was a result of John D. Rockefeller's. He contributed and supported many historically Black universities in this country. He helped eliminate diseases, specifically in the South, of pinworm disease. Those are marks that he left. That's a hell of a legacy.
I've often heard it say he spent the first half of his life taking money from people and the second half of his life trying to give it back to people.
If anyone's interested in understanding that, the book Titan by Ron Chernoff is an excellent book, and it paints a real interesting picture of Rockefeller. After you've looked at the challenges conflicting your priorities, the challenge you'll face is maintaining relevance, because you're dealing with a rapidly changing economic and social climates. So you want to keep your eye on that target so you don't become irrelevant, and then the legacy just is short-term and close out.
The hardest part of this might be the length of the company has to be substantial enough to have left the impact you're trying to leave.
For those who aspire to go higher in their entrepreneurial journey, we've got something just for you. Coming up next.
Ready to discover what makes you a unique entrepreneur? Let's find out with the Janus Entrepreneurial Assessment. Imagine a tool that reveals your unique entrepreneurial tendencies in just 20 minutes. The Janus Entrepreneurial Assessment does just that. Drawing upon decades of in-depth research since 1983 on entrepreneurial orientation and developed by a team of entrepreneurship experts, the Janus Entrepreneurial Assessment is a pioneering tool that delves into 7 essential entrepreneurial tendencies. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or looking to make a bigger impact in your present field, the Janus Entrepreneurial Assessment offers invaluable insights tailored just for you. Remember, it's not about scoring high, it's about discovering your unique potential. So why wait? Dive in and unleash your entrepreneurial spirit. Take the Janus Entrepreneurial Assessment today at profspirit.com and start your journey towards success.
Now, let's dive back into our journey of entrepreneurial insights.
as you've succeeded with developing the legacy, then another challenge you face is succession planning. All of us have a beginning and an end. If you create a true legacy, you want that legacy to continue after you're gone. Think of a Henry Ford. So you want to make sure that there is a succession there in who's going to basically take that baton and move it forward and continue it forward. If someone's really interested in doing this, there are some practical steps they can take. One is defining the clear and compelling vision, setting a strong foundational value that the company aligns with the legacy values. Think about scalability and the long-term impact. As you're building your team, you have to inspire people to join you on this mission.
And the inspiration is a difficult part of it as well, because oftentimes building a legacy isn't taking the easiest path. It's probably doing something that's more difficult than what you could be doing. So making sure that your team and the people around you are on board with that is pivotal.
Yeah, so it's well worth doing that. It's a cool concept. So do you have any final thoughts on legacy building?
It's not too early to start. Oftentimes we look at people that are at the end of their careers when they're truly pioneering their legacy, when we're starting to see the effects of that legacy. Through my own life and the mentors I work with, I will tell you that legacy starts a long time before people actually start to see the benefits of it. Be thinking about what that legacy that you'd like to leave. And as the corny saying that's so true, if you're shooting for the moon and miss, you might hit the stars. If you know where you're trying to go, you're going to leave a positive impact, even if it's not exactly the legacy you're trying to aim for.
And my final thought to our listeners is today, start to reflect on what type of legacy you can envision that you leave. And today's a great day to start. Let's get entrepreneurial.
Let's get entrepreneurial.
We extend our gratitude for your presence and attention. Check out profspirit.com to discover resources and courses designed specifically for innovators like you. Stay on the cutting edge by following us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and other platforms as it is released. Until then, keep the entrepreneurial flame burning.